Chapter 23, from the clipboard of Coach Crenshaw. I knew we didn't stand a chance against the Canadians. We never have. Oh, sure, back when I was a kid, we squeaked by them once. But what nobody remembers was there was a teacher strike in Winnipeg that year. So they had to send us a team from this little farm school outside the city. Maybe that was why I was desperate enough to put Gustafson in goal. Besides, everyone knew Larry would saw both his legs off before he'd hurt the team. Or so I thought. Gustafson wasn't a goalie. He could barely stand on his skates. That's when the extent of my blunder came crashing down on me. Walters, I bawled, get some pads on. But coach, he protested, Zachary's got my jersey. I don't care if you play naked, I growled. Hurry! The players were livid. All through both national anthems. He stinks, coach! He can't even skate! Why's he in there, coach? Squawk! I froze. What was that? A few what was that's bubbled around the bench. I looked around. Between the music and the nervous buzz of the crowd, maybe I was hearing things. The arena practically vibrated with anticipation. Come on, Walters! But he didn't make it before the anthems ended. We were going to have to play the first couple of shifts with Gustafson. The referee dropped the puck. The Rebels captain won the draw and plowed over Larry like he was a speed bump. Hit him, I cried! The kid made a beautiful deke and Tenorio missed his check. The captain streaked in, raised his stick, and fired a blistering shot. Gustafson didn't move. At first, I thought he didn't see the puck hurling for the top corner of the net. Then, almost like a mechanical response, his glove arm snapped up and grabbed the puck out of the air. What a save, bellowed a voice! And I realized in shock that it was mine. Larry picked himself up the ice and rushed our goalie, joyously crying, Zach! The face-off moved to our end. Gustafson made an impressive stick save, knocked away a sure goal with his blocker, and pounced on a dangerous rebound. Did you see that? Sorrentino was bug-eyed. He froze the puck right off their captain's stick. He's not human, breathed Walters, who was dressed to play, but thrilled that he wasn't needed. I always knew he wasn't human, grumbled Hughes. I just never realized he was a goalie. Hey! Came Ginsberg's righteous voice from our seats above the bench. Just because Zachary isn't one of the beautiful people doesn't mean he can't be a good player. I turned to face her. I thought you only cared about the chicken. Why are you here now? Are you kidding? She cried a little too loudly. I'm a Ranger fan. Go, team, go! Squawk! I turned to face my team. What's going on? A roar from the crowd snapped my attention back to the game. I looked to the ice just in time to see Gustafson snatch a booming shot right out of the air. I couldn't believe this was the same kid who couldn't do a single chin-up and refused to climb the ropes in gym class because of his fear of heights. He was putting on a superstar performance. The Rebels were all over us. The shots on goal counters showed 23-2, but the kid stopped everything. The first period ended with the score 0-0. I couldn't resist. In the locker room, I lifted Gustafson up, equipment and all, and enfolded him in a big bear hug. You're amazing! His reply was to the team, not me. This means no more wedgies, right? Adam said. I couldn't let it go. Where did you learn to play like that? He shrugged. Pretty easy. I mean, there's only one puck out there. Doomsday can throw things 5 or 6 at a time. Squawk! This time I wasn't hearing things. There was no game noise, no roar of the crowd. Only one thing on earth could warble like that, and it wasn't the Zamboni. All right, I demanded. Where is she? Dead silence. No girls in the locker room, Coach, Lurie said finally. I glared at him. Milo Neal's chicken is in this room. I heard her. Maybe you heard like some other chicken, Hugh suggested. A stray, Sorrentino added hopefully. Maybe the building is infested. That was Vincent. With chickens? I exploded. Look, guys, I understand, okay? She's a great mascot. I'm a ranger too, but I have to be a teacher first. That bird is stolen merchandise. Holding her is a crime. I can't have that on my team, and neither can you. But the guy stonewalled me. I searched all the locker rooms, all the lockers, the shower stalls, and the laundry van. Squawk! Oh, come on, I shouted in frustration. It was a chicken, not a microdot. How could they possibly keep it hidden? The buzzer sounded and the crowd cheered us back to the ice. When Gustafson came over the boards, the noise level went through the roof. He got a standing ovation. I tried to concentrate on the game, really I did, but I just couldn't get that fugitive chicken out of my head. We went on the power play. I thought about Henrietta. A questionable offside call. I scanned the bench, looking for hiding places. There was a scramble in front of the net. Missing chicken. Gustafson was flat on his back. Henrietta under at least 2 rebels. The puck went to this huge kid who flipped it, kidnapped chicken, right at the net. Out of nowhere, a glove reached out of the pile of people and caught it. Where was that stupid chicken? Great shift, guys, cheered Tenorio as the exhausted skaters climbed over the boards. Did you see that? Gasped Lurie. Zach picked one right up out of the top corner. He threw off his helmet, wrapped his head in a huge towel, and bent over the square equipment bag, catching his breath. Careful, I barked when I saw the towel dangling to the floor off the bench. You're going to trip someone with that. Sorry, Coach, Lurie stood up. A second later, when I glanced down the bench, it was Sorrentino crouched under the towel. Next time I looked, there was Tenorio on the same pose. Were my players really so exhausted? I squinted at Tenorio doubled over the spare equipment bag. Tenorio wasn't gasping. He'd been off the ice for a while. What was what were all of them doing under that towel? Oh! Suddenly I knew how detectives must feel when they crack the big case. It all came to me. The towel wasn't for drying, it was for hiding. Hiding the duffel. And what could be in the duffel? You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. I saw that Lurie had noticed my interest. Adam, I said softly, hand over the bag. He looked at me beseechingly. Coach, you know I can't. Not now. The chicken doesn't skate, I reminded him. Yeah, I know, but maybe she sort of does, you know? The weird thing was, I did know. I hesitated. I could lose my job if I didn't deliver the chicken to Mr. DeLong right away, but these were the Canadians! And thanks to Gustafson, we had a chance! Heck, at this point in the Canadiens game, we were usually down by 5 or 6 goals. Oh, so call me crazy, I reached for the duffel. The bag, I ordered. Lurie was in agony. Coach, please! I looked him in the eye. I need to count the backup elbow pads, I said stiffly. The kid stared at me for a moment, and then a slow smile took shape beneath his breath-fogged visor. Yes, sir, Coach! He placed the duffel on the floor right in front of me. The whole team gathered around breathlessly. As I bent down and unzipped the bag, Sorrentino draped the towel over my head. Sure enough, that goofy chicken head bobbed up at me. Hello, Henrietta. I began. How do you talk to a chicken? Milo says you're a brainless bag of oven stuffer, and now's the time to prove him wrong, I said, hoping my wife never found out about this. So how about a goal? That's when I heard Lurie yelling, Davey, no! I snapped up just in time to see Vincent at the Rebels' blue line. His face was bright red, a study in pure concentration. His stick was raised back so far, was pointing straight up at the heavens. Vincent! I bellowed. Not a slap shot! Not now! I'll bench you for the rest of your life! Pow! He hit the puck with the force of a meteor slamming into a mountain. The enormous effort landed the kid flat on the ice. No! I shouted. But I could see right away that there was something different about this slap shot. Instead of taking off for Jupiter, it stayed low. The puck sizzled in like a cruise missile about 3 inches off the ice. It streaked past the defenseman, shot past the goalie, ripped clear through the mesh of the back of the net, and split the boards with a mighty crack. The red goal light flashed on. The crowd erupted with a deafening roar. My players cleared the bench, and I'm not embarrassed to say so did I. Vincent was just getting back onto his feet, but we knocked him down again and piled on, howling with joy. I have to admit, I was as bad as any of the kids. Vincent looked up at me. I'm sorry, Coach, I had to take it. Larry cut him off, laughing with glee. Davey, you big dope, you scored! Vincent sat up and stared at the puck, which was still wedged in the boards behind the torn net. I scored? He barely whispered. Yeah! It came from everybody. With my slap shot? Yeah! I could see the emotion twist that crazy kid's face. I knew he was thinking about the countless hours of firing tennis balls against his garage door. The arguments with me and his teammate over that confounded slap shot. The game spent riding the pine because of it. He might never score again, but this was Donald Vincent's moment. He burst into tears. It was the most touching scene in all my years of coaching. Vincent bawling uncontrollably, Lurie trying to dry the kid's tears through his visor, the other slapping Vincent's helmet and shoulder pads, the roaring crowd, thunder in our ears. Right then, I knew why I became a coach. All right, break it up, the officials began pulling us apart. When the referee saw me, he gawked. Crenshaw, what are you doing out here? And he spotted Vincent's tear-streaked face. Injured player? I grinned. More like a lifelong dream fulfilled. He looked at me in disgust. You're supposed to be keeping them in line, not egging them on. When I got up, I caught sight of Mr. DeLong watching disapprovingly from the bleachers. But at that moment, I wasn't a teacher. I was a ranger! Number 1, I bellowed, and my players gave me a cheering escort to the bench. In the stands, Mr. DeLong shook his head at me. I didn't care. We were destined for greatness today. I could feel it in my bones! Chapter 24, downloaded from the hard disk of Zachary Gustafson. If you live long enough, you become what you despise the most. In my case, that happened when I became a member of the South Middle School Rangers. Worse, I was the star! That might explain why the crowd had been chanting, Zach attack! Zach attack! Ever since the start of the third period. They went totally gaga every time I touched the puck. It was more than a little weird to be suddenly awesome at something you didn't even like. Almost like getting elected president when you weren't even running. But to be honest, this goalie gig was not such a big deal. Compared to the barrage my brother Doomsday fired at my computer, the Rebels were nothing special. They were a lot better than us, of course. That was pretty obvious. I mean, I was making saves 4, 5, even 6 at a time before my defenseman could clear the zone. When I wasn't flopping around stopping pucks, I checked out the shots on goal counter. 51-2, 64-3, 72-4. Was this even fair? I looked over at the Rebels goalie. He was enjoying peace and solitude. Me? I was Mr. Bullseye on a shooting gallery. Which gave me a thought for a new screenplay. A warrior tribe on a distant planet. Every year, a young brave is selected for target practice for the flaming poison, acid-dipped, flesh-going arrow archers. Then this race of mutant, highly intelligent chickens, a booming slap shot bounced off my goalie mask with the force of a battering ram. I had to be on my toes to pounce on the rebound. Lafayette hauled me to my feet and slapped me on the back. Way to go, Zach! Great save, buddy! Cheered Steve. That was another weird thing about today. All these guys who'd picked on me and gave me wedgies. All of a sudden, they loved me. They pampered me. And boy, did I rub it in their faces in it. I sent them to the bench for towels. I made them clean the snow off my skate blades. I was constantly getting my stick retaped. I asked for Gatorade at almost every whistle. Not because I wanted it, but because I couldn't resist the sight of those big hockey muscleheads breaking their necks to cater to my every whim. This was a big mistake, which became obvious as the clock ticked down to the final minutes. Hockey games don't have bathroom breaks, and, well, I'd polished off about 4 bottles of Gatorade. By the 4-minute mark, it was a notable pressure. Within 60 seconds, I was grimacing behind my mask. Remember, you can't cross your legs when you're wearing goalie pads. When the clock stopped with 1:58 to play, I felt like my back teeth were floating. A single thought dominated my brain. I'm not going to make it. Time out! I headed off the ice. Not so much skating as running on the toes of my skate blades. We've used our timeout! Adam yelled at me. Gustafson, get back here! That was Coach Crenshaw. I heard him just as I leaped off the ice and hurled myself into the restroom. I was going to catch a lot of flack for this. But I wasn't making my own decisions at this point. The Gatorade was definitely in charge. Have you ever gone to the bathroom in full goalie equipment? It's like dismantling a car engine. 90% of that stuff has to come off. It's a major operation. By the time I got back to the ice, both teams were standing around waiting. The rest were glaring at me, and Coach Crenshaw's eyes looked like they were about to pop on his head. That's a double delay of game penalty, the referee said in my face. One for calling a timeout you don't have, and one for taking it. That's not right. A 2-man advantage is like giving them a sure goal. We don't stand a chance. Why don't you just hand them the game on a silver platter? It's not fair. Coach Crenshaw, Adam, and I all screamed it out so fast, it was impossible to tell who said what. But referees are like the weather. They don't change no matter how much you complain. Aw, Zach, Adam seethed. It looked pretty grim. I mean, the Canadians had nearly 80 shots at me at even strength. With 2 extra players, it was going to be open season on Zachary, and all the Hunters had bazookas. Then the Rebels pulled the goalie for an extra skater. That means they had 6 attackers against only 3 defenders, and gulp me. It was total chaos, like 100 Deweys all throwing blocks at the same time. My 3 teammates, Adam, Joey, and Steve, formed a triangle to protect the net. But they were trying to stop up Niagara Falls with a cotton ball. 4-inch armor plating wouldn't have protected the net from the offensive barrage the Rebels unleashed at me. It was all happening too fast to think about what was going on. My mind shut down and a kind of weird automatic pilot took over. My catching glove was just a blur. My blocker and stick worked in perfect unison. My legs were everywhere. Hard shots slamming into the goalie pads resounded like drums. Slap shot, stick safe, backhand, off the chest, wrist shot, what a catch! Scramble in front of the net. I dove on the puck. How did I know what to do? No idea! Hey, I'd only been a goalie for an hour or so. The shots on goal counter showed 89-4, and through it all the crowd chanted, Zach attack! Zach attack! 14 seconds to play. I huddled with Adam, Joey, and Steve, but we were gasping and choking too much to say anything. Actually, words weren't necessary. The situation was obvious, even to a non-hockey fan like me. If we held out against the onslaught, we'd beat the Canadians for the first time in 35 years. If we let them tie it up, we're probably going to get creamed in overtime. 14 seconds. What was 14 seconds? A lifetime, that's what. It stood between me and no more wedgies. Respect at school. Power even. Why, as a hockey hero, they'd owe me big. The puck was dropped. The Rebels' captain won the draw and passed back to his defenseman. Pow! A booming slap shot was headed for the net. But with all the traffic in front of me, I couldn't see a thing. Then, at the last instant, I caught a hint of black. Desperately, I went into a full split, kicking out my leg. The puck caromed off the toe of my skate. Rebound! Shouted Joey. The puck was just sitting there, fat and inviting. I hurled myself at it, but the Rebels' captain had the same idea. Crunch! I bounced off that Sasquatch like a ping-pong ball and careened right into Adam. The two of us landed in a heap back behind the net. No one was behind yelling Zack Attack now, they were just yelling. The wheels of time seemed to grind to a halt to give me a chance to savor the exquisite agony of the moment. There were 2 seconds left on the clock. The Rebels captain had the puck right in front of a totally empty net. His wrist twitched as he prepared to pop in the tying goal. No! Adam screamed behind me. Suddenly he grabbed me by the suspenders of my hockey pants. One final giant wedgie to end all wedgies. He lifted me up, and over the top of the net. And as I came down a perfect swan dive, I swung my goalie stick at the puck. Thwack! What a beautiful sound. I hit the puck about a trillionth of an inch before it crossed the goal line. And just as I landed face first on the ice, the buzzer sounded to end the game. Final score, 1-0 Rangers. Miracle! The community center seated 1,500 people, and when they all leapt to their feet at the same time, it almost created a wind. The roar of celebration was that much louder because it was 37 years in coming. My teammates, those rotten Rangers, those muscleheads who made a career out of bugging me, they lifted me up on their shoulders and carried me around the ice for a victory lap. Remember, I shouted down at them, spelling out the deal, no more wedgies! But you couldn't talk to people who were screaming with joy. Adam's face was so pink that if you put lace around it, it would have been a Valentine. This was probably the greatest moment in the guy's life. And there was Deevy, still crying. Coach Crenshaw was kissing guys on the helmet. It was disgusting. Lynette leaped the boards and threw herself into Joey's arms. So I guess the on again, off again was on again. And all this happiness was because of me. I was underwhelmed. Lynette was the first pebble of the avalanche. They started coming over the boards like army ants, howling and cheering. Pretty soon you couldn't see the ice for the swarms of people. It was like New Year's Eve. Everywhere you looked, there was a party. Friends dancing and singing, proud parents hugging their sons, teachers congratulating the coach, a chicken darting through the forest of skates and legs. A chicken! I screamed. Henrietta's loose! Plowing through the crowd like a harvester through a field of wheat came Kelly Marie. Where? 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 From my perch atop everyone's shoulders, I pointed. Henrietta was scrambling and skittering away across the rink. A buzz of recognition shot through the crowd. Is that a chicken? It's the Neal Kids chicken! The missing chicken! Grab her! No! Screamed Kelly Marie. You'll hurt her! Mr. Lurie snatched up the bird, but Henrietta flapped wildly and broke free. Everyone made a try for that slippery chicken, including the team, so I got dumped on my face. I wasn't the only one. People were diving for Henrietta, slipping on the ice, knocking each other over. If I ever switched my screenwriting style over to comedy, I'd have tons of ideas for my first movie, called Henrietta versus the 1500 Stooges. Out of the sea of grabbing, diving, falling players and spectators rose Henrietta, flapping her wings furiously. She got just enough lift to land her on top of the boards. Then she jumped down and scooted out of the arena. She's getting away! Shrieked Kelly Marie. I was the first one over the boards and hot on her tail feathers. Running on skates and full goalie equipment was no easy matter, but I could feel 1,500 people swarming behind me. If I stopped, I'd be trampled by the thundering herd. So I chased the bird across the foyer, my skate blades making hideous grinding sounds on the terrazzo floor. With a sinking heart, I realized that Henrietta was heading straight into the exhibition hall and, oh no, the science fair. Don't go in there, I shouted, like she was going to listen. Talk about the worst thing that could possibly happen. The science fair was scheduled to be her funeral. She was supposed to be there not as a guest, but as lunch. If it came out that I was one of the kidnappers, Milo would never speak to me again. Not to mention that Adam, Kelly, Marie, and I would probably get suspended and maybe even arrested as cattle rustlers. Science fairs were definitely not designed for a hockey team on skates. I stopped short to avoid plowing into display tables and experiments, and everyone else piled up behind me, gridlocked in the doorway. I dropped to my knees and crawled after Henrietta under the tables. Hopping and hustling, the bird led me on a merry chase beneath the science fair, navigating through a maze of table legs. For once, I was grateful to my equipment, which was saving me a lot of scrapes, bangs, and bruises. Hadn't crawled this much since I was doomsday age. It was murder. I didn't expect to get to stand up until Henrietta emerged from under the experiment tables. I rolled out into the aisle, leaped to my feet, and found myself staring into the world-famous face of Victor Neal. I was awestruck. The real California famous guy. He looked exactly like on TV. Better even, because we didn't get the Science Channel, so I usually saw him scrambled. I was so profoundly shocked that it took me a while to realize that I was standing right in front of the complete life cycle of a link in the food chain. Milo and Mrs. Baggio were opposite me, offering a bucket of fried chicken to two men wearing judge badges. "Zachary?" Milo blurted, squinting into my face through the bars of my goalie mask, but he was distracted by a large squawk. There was a mad flurry of white feathers, and Henrietta, the lost specimen, flapped her way up, straight up to Milo's chinos and into his arms. Milo's eyes bulged behind his Bertrand St. Rene's. "Where did she come from?" Victor Neal laughed. What cares as long as she's here? Talk about timing!" Milo turned urgently to the judges. "Would it be possible for my project to be judged last? That would give me about an hour." The men exchanged shrugs. "Sounds fair enough, if there's a good reason," said the senior of the two. I'm taking the specimen to Arno's butcher shop," Milo explained. "I should have just enough time to cook the meat, and we can truly complete the link in the food chain." Victor Neal snapped to attention. "Milo, what do you mean? You're not still planning to kill that bird?" Milo looked confused. "Of course I am. The experiment." "Milo, think!" The father cut him off. "You've been around that chicken for 4 months now. It's not a specimen anymore. It's a friend." "Dad!" Milo couldn't believe his ears. "You of all people should know that a chicken doesn't have the necessary intelligence to be capable of friendship. It's bad science." "Bad science," retorted Victor Neal, "is ignoring what's right in front of your nose. That chicken got frightened in the crowd and came running right to you. She knows you, and you want to eat her? Have a heart!" Milo flinched as if he'd just been slapped. The poor kid was destroyed. All he ever wanted was to live up to his dad in science, and here was that same dad wailing out on him. That was when I said my first words ever to the great Victor Neal. But they weren't, "Hi, I'm Milo's best friend in the world," or "Hey, I understand you hang out with lots of Hollywood bigwig types," or even, "Wait here while I go get the 50 pounds of movie scripts in the steamer truck in my closet." I didn't say any of that stuff. Instead, I turned onto the great man and barked, "Wait a minute! Milo's worked like a dog on this project to make you proud! You don't even visit him for 4 months, and now you just show up to yell at the guy? What have I done?" My blender stretched in all directions to infinity. I had been praying, hinting, scheming to finagle a meeting with this man ever since I first laid eyes on Milo. And what did I do with this golden opportunity? I chewed out this Nobel Prize scientist in public on his own hometown. Goodbye, Hollywood. Victor Neal was giving me the worm guts look. At least now I knew why Milo got it. His expression would have put out a forest fire. Timidly, Milo said, "Dan, I don't think you've met my friend Zach." He fell silent, looking nervously down at Henrietta. She was making strange clucking noises and wiggling around in his arms. I'd been scratched and pecked more than anybody, but I'd never seen her like this before. "Maybe she's just frightened by all the people," offered Mrs. Baggio. "Hold her tight." Then the bird started cackling and shaking. Milo's eyes filled with wonder. He said, Oh, wow." He reached under Henrietta and pulled out a gleaming white egg. Victor Neal snapped his fingers. "That's it! There's your food chain, Marlo! You're right! Excitedly, Milo turned to the judges. It still counts, doesn't it? The chicken was raised, consumed food, and eventually produced food. It's even better, Mrs. Baggio added breathlessly. Henrietta will provide eggs for a long time. The senior judge threw back his head and laughed. You're a lucky kid, Milo O'Neill, he exclaimed. It happened at the last second, but your link in the food chain is complete. Freeze! The crowd parted to admit Kelly Marie, approaching like a gunslinger. Only instead of a six-shooter, she had the exhibition hall fire extinguisher with the nozzle pointed at Milo. I was fascinated. It was a true screenwriting moment. The standoff. All the best movies have them. You don't get a lot of standoffs in St. Martin, Minnesota. I waited, not even breathing. She addressed our teacher first. I'm sorry, Mrs. Baggio, but Kelly Marie, exclaimed Milo. Quiet! She thundered. Now hand over that chicken and no sudden movements. Now just one moment, young lady. Victor Neal stepped out in front of his son. Kelly Marie panicked. She yanked the pin and a mountain of foam exploded out of the nozzle right onto Professor Neal. It all happened about the blink of an eye. 1 second Milo's father was standing there. The next he was a statue of white fluffy suds. Dad, don't shoot! Ordered Mrs. Baggio. Which was kind of like shutting the barn door after the horse was already long gone. Henrietta's fine, I told Kelly Marie. She just laid an egg. That's the food chain they're talking about. You just slimed Victor Neal. Sheepishly, Kelly Marie... Really? Ever the quick change artist, Kelly Marie enfolded her victim in a big hug. I knew you'd come when you'd get my letter. Miss Ginsburg, I presume, said Milo's dad, spitting foam. Sheepishly, Kelly Marie used the sleeve of her sweater to wipe the suds from the famous face. The crowd of hockey players and spectators who had been filling into the hall recognized Victor Neal and burst into applause. The astronomer put an arm around his son's shoulders, sharing some of the foam. I'm sorry, Milo. Really, I am. I should have come sooner, but you know my schedule. It's okay, Dad. No, it's not, your father persisted. Your friend Zeke is right. That's Zachary, I chimed in. Have you ever met Steven Spielberg? I wasn't even miffed that they both ignored me. Great screenplays have heartwarming moments too, and this was one of them. Arm in arm, father and son walked off to get reacquainted. It would have been a five-hanky moment if one of the characters wasn't covered from head to toe in fire extinguisher foam. Fade to black. Chapter 25. Downloaded from the hard disk of Zach Master Goldstopson. Henrietta, Chicken of Valor. Interior, Science Fair Day. Could this be the end of Henrietta? The hockey players cry into their face guards as the oil in the electric wok heats up and begins to sizzle. A stir-fly-eyed grave for a beloved friend. Close up, Mr. Arno sharpening his cleaver. Victor Neal. There's a way, son. There's always a way. Don't lose hope. Be brave like this valiant chicken, and look within yourself for the solution that will let Henrietta live to cluck another day. Henrietta. Quack! Squawk! Milo. Bravely. Oh, yes, Dad. View on Henrietta. An egg comes out of wherever eggs come out of a chicken. I sat back from my computer. That last part wasn't very professional. Ah, well, I'll ask Milo when where eggs come from when he and Henrietta get back from the state science fair in Duluth. With a chicken laying an egg every day, he must have been a pretty big expert by now. Things were pretty dull with Henrietta in Duluth. Mr. DeLong officially declared her the school mascot for all teams, and she was going to live in the pen in Mrs. Baggio's room. Why waste a perfectly good chicken coop? In theory, the bird belonged to all of us equally, but in reality, she was Kelly Marie's sweetie. Oh, sure, the usual band of chicken wackos was still hanging around. Joey and Lynette, Sheila and Brendan. Even Milo called her Henrietta now instead of the specimen. I was the only one she hated, and I had a giant scratch on my nose to prove it. The excitement of the big game was pretty much over by now. Yet every once in a while, some goofball would say, "Hey, we beat the Canadians!" And bang, it was celebration time all over again. Frankly, I was getting a little sick of all that yahooing. But I shouldn't complain. That hockey game changed life a lot for me. As I was now on the guest list for all of Lynette's parties. As co-MVPs, Devi and I got to share the hammock. Third graders asked for my autograph on the street. High school guys talked to me. I wasn't a dweeb anymore. I was Zach Master Goalstopson, the Zach Attack, the Super Wall. Adam pestered me 24 hours a day. "Oh, come on, Zach, you gotta join the team. With me in 8th grade, you and Ned, and Henrietta on the bench, we'll be awesome. We'll go undefeated and destroy the Canadians." Well, I'm not really sure, and I'm probably busy with my writing. Oh, I'd probably do it, but I just got a major kick out of stringing the guy along. I didn't intend to sign up for hockey until 5 minutes before the opening face-off next October. Let him sweat. Let them all sweat. Payback for a lifetime of wedgies. "Please, Zach, it's my last year. I won't sleep until I know you're on the team." The musclehead even tried to get me to take French with him next semester. Want to hear the logic? So that when we were in the NHL together, we could give interviews en français in Montreal. Okay, maybe my goalie talent is headed for the NHL. But I better get drafted by the LA Kings, because there's no way I'm going to let hockey stardom interfere with my screenwriting career. South Middle School gave Milo a hero's welcome when he and Henrietta won the state science fair. It was Mrs. Baggio's first state winner ever. Kelly Marie, of course, gave all the credit to the chicken. I could see that Milo didn't care so much about the trophy. He was thrilled that he'd get to go to the national finals and be with his dad. I went over to help him pack and say bon voyage. Kelly Marie was already there, trying to convince him that Henrietta had to fly first class. You should have seen her face when she found out her sweetie was going to be in a box in the baggage compartment. While Milo was showing her out, I took the opportunity to stick a few of my screenplays into his suitcase. You know, the really classy ones like Terror in the Sewer, Horror Dome, and of course the Brain Eaters. If things got dull, maybe Professor Neil would need something to read. I'd be friends with Milo no matter what, but it seems stupid to pass up a perfectly good Hollywood connection. It paid off, too! Victor Neil got a hold of Terror in the Sewer and actually gave it to a friend who worked at Paramount. Mom almost blew a gasket when I got a letter on Real Studio Stationery. I mean, she was just now getting used to me being a sports hero. The Paramount guy wasn't that smart because he rejected Terror in the Sewer. But he encouraged me to keep writing. He also suggested that I tone down the blood and guts and death and try to concentrate more on my own experience. So here I was, hard at work on Henrietta, Chicken of Valor, telling the story of the last few months. Milo, holding up the egg. This chicken has taught us all a valuable lesson. Organ music swells. That you should never give up. That it's always darkest before the dawn. And that it takes a brave heart to be a chicken. He is interrupted by the ringing of Victor Neil's cellular phone. Victor Neil, flipping open the phone. Neil here. Voice on phone. It's no use, Vic! The planetary high magnification Cosmos Smoke has detected a giant asteroid hurtling toward Earth! Exterior, outer space. The out-of-control planetoid streaks past the rings of Saturn, narrowly misses the moons of Jupiter, rips through the atmosphere away from Mars, and plows right into Earth. Kaboom! Our planet is vaporized in a humongous celestial fireworks display. 5 billion perish, not including animals and plants. It's the end of all life as we know it. Roll closing credits. Okay, I know it didn't happen exactly that way. Like, Victor Neil might have had a cell phone, but it didn't ring. And all that stuff about the Earth getting destroyed, obviously. Like it or lump it, that's my style. Fade to black. And that, my friends, was The Chicken Doesn't Skate. One of the most uniquely told stories I've ever read in my lifetime. Corman took a chance with this one, deciding to tell the story from multiple perspectives. And I think you really pulled it off quite well. This is another one that, regardless of what age you are, I will definitely recommend this. And I hope that in future episodes, I'll be able to provide you, who knows what next. I'm going to be able to show you when Rowdy Live returns. Both as part with Rowdy Reads returns, both as part of Rowdy Live and on rowdyc.com.